Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another YouTube video. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Palantir. Now, I did a full in-depth dive into Palantir stock just a few days ago, but I figured, hey, a lot of people are talking about Palantir, and a lot of people were wondering what my full thesis on this stock is, right? Because I'm very bullish on Palantir, but some people that, left a comment yesterday and the day before weren't so bullish on Palantir, and they think that this company is probably going to zero, or this company is going to at least at like $10 a share. And if it does go to 10 or 13 or 20 bucks per share, I'm super stoked about that, because personally I was buying at $9.80, $10, and that just gives me an opportunity to buy more shares. I'm a long-term investor, and so in today's episode, I wanted to share with you guys my bullish thesis on Palantir. All right, so Palantir. And if it's your first time to the channel, don't forget to smash the subscribe button before we dive in, and also smash the like button because it really helps out the YouTube algorithm and it helps me make more content like this. There have been some people on my last video that have been wondering, why has Palantir stock price dropped, a few percentage points, right? Essentially, it's dropped like 40% from its all-time highs. And for my last video, it's actually pretty much been trending sideways. So why is that? So let's talk about that first before we talk about the bullish thesis, right? At the time I'm making this video, we're in March, and the lockup period actually expired February 18th, with 80% of his shares outstanding becoming free to trade. That means a lot of people are able to sell their positions, especially like executives that have been holding onto the stock. This happens every single time with a company that IPOs. There are execs that want to sell their shares at a premium to people that have never been able to buy the shares before. Typically, the way that this happens is the company IPOs, then about 6 months, 8 months, sometimes 12 months later, the lockup period tends to expire. And by that time, the price of that stock has gone only up. And it's not always like this, but that's just what generally happens with these, super exciting stocks such as Palantir. So their lockup period expired, and that sent the stock plummeting. Now it's kind of leveled off at this point, and I would love to see the stock go down a little bit further, but I just don't know if it will go below $20. I'd love to see it. So the lockup period expired, right? Which means more insider selling could happen. But what does that mean for long-term investors in Palantir? Well, that means more discounts, and I like discounts. So obviously everyone has already probably heard that Cathie Wood just started buying up Palantir, which is a good sign. They bought 3.3 million shares of Palantir and they added that to their portfolio, which of course is a good sign for anyone that owns this stock, since many growth investors look up to her and kind of follow what she's doing. And comparative to like Twitter, right down here, they also added 497,000 shares of Twitter. So they've been buying a lot more Palantir than, companies that have been around on the market for quite some time. So it means that Cathie believes in this stock more than some of these other players. But let's also talk about the fact that Goldman Sachs just upgraded their price. So in this article here, they talk about how Palantir was upgraded to buy from neutral at Goldman Sachs, which also raised its price target to $34 on Wednesday. As the software company posted strong results with a weak revenue forecast, shares pulled back as the lockup period expired. And honestly, Goldman Sachs putting them at this 34 price target, that just means a lot more institutional investors, since most of them are bearish on this stock, they're going to look at that and say, maybe there's something here. They're going to pay attention to the stock a little bit more. So Wall Street right now isn't taking it super seriously because there has been a lot of insider trading. Again, not uncommon. This is very, very normal. But Wall Street, what they like to do is when these big drops in price happen, of a company that a lot of people like, they'll put it into neutral status or as a sell status. Meanwhile, they'll be doing the exact opposite. And Goldman Sachs, next to ARK Invest, they're some of the first institutional investors to really put this stock at a buy. And next, let's look at something that is very, very interesting. And this is starting to get more and more bullish. So if you've stayed up until this point, just wait, because there's a lot more interesting stuff that I think you guys will really enjoy. And I'll even give you my, personal thesis on why I think that this stock could go even higher. So they recently had a leaked S1, and this leaked S1 shows that over the past decade, average revenue per consumer has increased 30%. And this S1 shows that most of the revenue, about 53%, comes from government contracts. So what does that mean? Well, if over 50% of the revenue comes from government contracts, they're not going anywhere. right? A lot of their money comes from very, very safe places. Governments don't like change, right? As Palantir picks up more government agencies, usually these government contracts last long periods of time because governments don't like change. They want to be impressed once, they want to be wowed once, and then 10, 20, 30 years, they're going to be sticking with that company hand over fist. So let's look at a few other companies, these are in the public sector, that have picked up Palantir. One of them being IBM. Now, even though IBM is a corporation that peaked during the dot-com bubble, right? And since then has been kind of on the downtrend. I mean, it's still a huge, huge company. We're talking about a conglomerate in the tech space. This is great for Palantir. IBM has a ton of cash to throw at them. And being an investor in Palantir, I'm totally okay with IBM throwing their excess cash at Palantir. So another interesting partnership to develop on a legal digital service platform is Palantir with Ack & Gump. And this collaboration marks a unique use of Palantir's Foundry software in the legal industry. This could be a huge revenue stream for Palantir, and I think this is some of the biggest news that people aren't really talking about when they talk about Palantir, because this is a new use case of their already existing product. Next we have on the list is a new partnership, which is Palantir and 3M, and they expand their relationship to build a dynamic supply chain. And again, 3M has chosen to expand its use of Palantir's Foundry platform to support its digital transformation, assisting in the build of a dynamic supply chain that enables the global manufacturer to respond nimbly to changes in demand across tens of thousands of products. And here's a quick quote from Brig Knott, which is 3M's vice president. "In an increasingly complex world, the success of our business depends on our ability to respond quickly to changing facts on the ground. In the midst of a global pandemic and significant changes to our demand across products, the Foundry platform enabled us to react quickly and effectively. We're excited to expand this work across the 3M enterprise." Now that's big, because a lot of other companies might show up at their front door saying, "Hey, we heard what you did with 3M, or we hear what you're doing with IBM. We'd love to have the same thing for us," right? We don't want to go through these expensive vendors, or maybe we don't have a product like that can help us achieve, speed and efficiency, right? So overall, it's looking really, really good for Palantir as far as, getting new customers, because that's all they need, right? They don't need to create new products. They have the products. All they need is to expand their customer base outside of the private sector and into the public sector. And that's what they're doing right now. I mean, these articles, if you look back, these articles are all from February. So this is just 1 month, and they've already signed essentially 3 new deals. That is huge. So let's also look at their revenue, because that's what a lot of people are like, "Hey, I don't believe that Palantir is, very profitable." And they're not right now. But let's talk about how big they can really get. Okay, because that's kind of the talk of the town. That's what people want to know. So here we have the revenue. So we're sitting right here, right? We're sitting right here between December 30th, 2020 and December 30th, 2021, because this is on a yearly basis. So right now, the projected earnings, right? This is net income, is projected to be a loss of $500 million for 2021. And the great thing is about this is that's just them expanding, right? That's where that money is going. I mean, they're bringing $1.4 billion in revenue and their earnings is $500 million. Where is that money going? Well, they're trying to expand their partnerships, right? So that's where the money's going, and that's where I think the money should go, especially for us long-term investors. We want that. Their growth is gonna go down a little bit. That's what we see here. Look, it already happened. And then it's gonna slowly peak up, and then year after year, it's gonna go up and up and up until right here in 2025, where the expected revenue is $5 billion with their first earnings of almost $1 billion. To be exact, 742 million is the estimate. But again, it just all depends on how many customers they can pick up, how expensive those customers are, and at the end of the day, how much money they're able to make from each single company. So it's looking really, really bright for Palantir. And let's talk about their growth, because this is where it gets super, super interesting. A lot of people said in my last video, "Hey, I don't believe that in 5 years they could be a $400 billion market cap." And another person said that, that is their 20-year outlook, right? And I just kind of wanted to laugh a little bit. I just said, "Hey, I don't think that you're looking at the numbers." I even asked him really nicely. I said, "Hey, do you have certain facts that you're looking at that maybe I'm missing that, could paint that picture for me?" And he never responded. So I just wanted to show you guys exactly why I think that, because this will paint a great picture for you. So This just came out last month. Palantir reports revenue growth of 47% for full year 2020 and expects Q1 2020 revenue growth of 45% as well. So, is that sustainable? Sort of, kind of, right? Because obviously it's going to go down with time, right? Even the biggest companies go down with time. Honestly, there are only a handful of companies that don't go down. Like Google's a great example. They've actually only been increasing in revenue for quite some time now. And I think Palantir is one of those, but just to be more of the bearish person, right? I want to look at, from a person that is like super short Palantir or doesn't even want to get into Palantir and just completely anti-Palantir. I want to show you guys that growth rate because I want to just stick with, hey, let's just say their growth rate doesn't grow and it actually shrinks. So I made a spreadsheet, right? As anyone would. I created a spreadsheet for you guys so you guys can see and I don't have to do it on screen so that way you guys can understand what this might look like. So here we have the years on the left, the valuation in column B. So this is 48 billion. This is what they're at right now. Their growth, it says 140, but you got to remember that when you put percentages into Excel or into Google Sheets for that matter, you have to put a 1 in front of whatever you're putting. So if I want it to grow by 40%, you have to put 140%, right? Because 100% would just be the same figure. So 40% growth. And then on year 5, so 2026, right after that, I said that they would grow only by 30%. So that's my bearish thesis, okay? So here we have end of year valuation. Based off of their current valuation and their growth, right? We're looking at what their end of year valuation could be. 2026, end of 2026 is kind of where, that 5-year mark is. And we're looking at $361 billion end of year of 2026. That's pretty good. That's almost a 10x from where we are today. And again, that's super, super conservative where I think they could be. I think they could be 400 or 500 billion. That's mainly because the market likes to react to a certain stock versus the actual valuation. So right now, Palantir is sitting at a fair valuation. I think when they go up in price and keep going and going and going, there will be a lot more hype around the stock, and then more retail investors come in, and then more institutional investors come in, and then we have a lot of this money that's just being printed, right? The tendies being printed in a stock that's should be undervalued, but is then overvalued because people are just buying in herds, right? So this 400 billion could be 800 billion, just like we saw with Tesla. Tesla's well overvalued right now in a lot of people's opinions. They're pricing in 10 years worth of growth into Tesla right now. And if they did that with Google, Google would be sitting at multiple trillions of dollars versus just 1.4 trillion at the time of making this video. So let's look at the 10-year. So 10-year is 2031, right? And end of 2031, we're looking at a whopping $1.3 trillion valuation for this stock if they can sustain that 40 to 30% growth. That's the 10-year price target that nobody is talking about. That's the growth that nobody is talking about. And you already saw they made 3 partnerships happen in 1 month's time. And these aren't little partnerships. Like if me and you partnered with IBM or me and you partnered with 3M, some of the biggest companies out there, wouldn't you have a pretty bullish sentiment on their, on their future? I think so. So that's where I'm sitting with Palantir. That's my personal thesis. Take it with a grain of salt. Again, I'm just a guy on YouTube. This is not financial advice. It's not investment advice. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Am I being too bullish? Am I being too bearish? What are you guys' opinions? I'm curious to find out. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to leave me something other than, just talking about Palantir, maybe like a video idea, or if you want to chat, I have my Instagram link down there as well. We also recently dropped a merch store, which I'm super excited about. If you want to go check it out, it's just bestmerchever.com. Super easy to remember. And there's a bunch of cool stuff there if you want to go check that out. Without further ado, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out. Feel free to check out the links down in the description below where you can get a free stock from Robinhood, $20 free from Stash, 2 or more stocks free from Webull, or $10 free from M1 Finance.